Weinstein's Fence 2026 Edit, Episodes 173. I am Rod Murphy, and this is Growing Up Poor in Irish Boston, a series of my 1950s era Irish and Boston songs, history, jokes, and stories. Never let the truth interfere with a good story. This real-life story was one of my first broadcasts. After listening to it again recently, I realized it needed more context. So here it is, again, better, I hope. I grew up in the 40s and the 50s when many people, including kids, raised pigeons on their three-decker roofs. All over Boston and other big northern cities, young people had pigeon coops built on roofs with perches and nest boxes and landing platforms and tough wire mesh to keep the predators away. Cats, rats, raccoons, hawks, and snakes are some of pigeons' predators. Mickey Mickle, later to become a successful Cambridge bookie, and I lived in the same three-decker, he on the third floor, me on the second. Some of our neighbors raised pigeons. Some types of pigeons raised nearby were tumblers, rollers, and Belgian racing pigeons. I think all of those were homing pigeons or homers. At that time, 1949, we were about 10 years old. One of our friends, Basil Iliopoulos, who with his father had a pigeon coop on his roof, offered to give us 3 rollers which were extra to their flock. Rollers are bred to do rapid backward somersaults and spin very fast while dropping 20 feet or more. They are usually flown in a flock and perform in a group. We wanted those rollers, although we had no experience. We thought we could put on a flying show for our friends. Also, we were excited to try to train our rollers to return to the coop on their breeder's voice commands, that is, our voices. There are some folks who hate pigeons. These people call them flying rats. I have recently seen on a pigeon fancier's website the following theory. God devised pigeons as a means of punishment for man, probably after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. He wanted to make sure that people would never feel comfortable again enough to live in a city and repeat the sins committed there. So he created the pigeons as a means to make the city dwellers' lives more miserable, as a constant reminder of their past sins. We never agreed with such pigeon theology or philosophy. In fact, we didn't agree with any philosophy. We were mutton-headed kids, for Pete's sake. So we decided to take the free birds that summer. Many questions arose. Where do we put the coop? What do we use for wood, nails, etc. to build it? What would our parents say about it? If we put it on our three-decker roof, would the landladies object? Could we build it without any adults knowing about it? Where would the money come from for the 50-pound bags of bird feed? Strategic questions for 2 meat-headed pre-adolescents to grapple with. You need to realize we were city kids, so we were cynical and had learned that ordinary rules could be ignored if we were careful. We decided we could acquire, quote-unquote, the nails and the black tar paper for waterproofing the coop from what we called the plaster yard, which was directly across Alston Street from our Cambridge house. It was previously operated by the late Mr. Chapin, whose widow, an old recluse, lived in the house which fronted the former wholesale business. The defunct business was high-fenced, gated, and locked up, but there was still much inventory stored there, and we thought we could get at it. Bringing some scrap pieces of wood to the roof of our house to begin the coop, we were immediately shooed off by the spinster Riley sisters, our landladies, who lived on the first floor. We then asked Mrs. Senecal, the almost senile cousin of the Rileys, who lived next door, if we could put the coop in her backyard. She agreed docilely and would have agreed if we had asked her to fly out her second-floor window. Unsuccessfully, we looked around the neighborhood for falling down buildings that we could strip for wood. Then I remembered Cambridge's Weinstein scrapyard located on River Street. They had just torn down their old rotted wood fence and replaced it with a brand new wide pine board fence painted Kelly green. Our plan was to take their old fencing that we thought would still be behind the new fence. To get to the fence, we needed to take a shortcut through the vacant lot next door to the Pelrines yard and just across the street from our house. Unfortunately, the old wood had been disposed of, so we began to look at Weinstein's new fence lustfully. Could we rip boards from the new fence? Could we get away with it? When would we do it? After looking around unsuccessfully for other more legal wood sources, we finally figured that Friday after dark would be the best time to strip Weinstein's fence. The business was closed on Saturday and Sunday, and no one could see what we were doing at night, and we had time on the weekends to build the coop. We had hammers, saws, and crowbars borrowed from our father's toolbox. Late that Friday, we stripped down enough planks from our Jewish patron to build the coop. We took some 2x4s also. Our coop was to be 5 by 5 by 5 with a flat roof and cut down broomsticks inside for perches. We used orange crates for nesting boxes and built a window ledge-like landing platform for the birds. We also built a trap, which was a one-way device that let birds into the coop but not out. We waterproofed the walls and roof with tar paper from Chapin's so the Kelly green paint couldn't be seen. We put newspapers on the floor of the coop to ease in cleaning the bird droppings. We built a feeding trough and used borrowed crockery bowls from home for watering the birds. We received all our advice on building the coop from neighborhood bird fanciers. For a couple of non-trained larcenous meatheads, our finished pigeon coop looked pretty good. On Monday, we got our rollers and were given directions from Iliopolis on how to take care of them. One instruction I remember was that the pigeons often got big cankers in their mouth. They would starve if the canker was not removed. The first aid procedure was brutal. We had one bird that had a mouth canker. Basil lit a wooden match and Mickey held the bird while Basil, with the still hot but extinguished matchstick, burned the cankers from the bird's mouth. So after all that nefarious activity, we were very excited and ready to become roller pigeon experts. Tuesday afternoon, we were out at the coop making like we knew what we were doing when my father came home early from work, a very unusual occurrence. He came over to the fence between our yard and Senecal's yard, our pigeon's location. He called me over to him, which I immediately did along with Mickey. I knew something bad was about to happen. He sternly asked about the source for the wood and materials for the coop. He then asked where we got the birds. We gave him shuffling, gobbledygook answers. He then left without saying much and walked out of the yard toward Weinstein's. We found out later that either the police or Mr. Weinstein reconnoitered around the neighborhood and found the just constructed wood coop and figured that's where their new fence went. I think it had to be Mr. Weinstein because the Cambridge cops were stupid and lazy. I think Dad spoke with Mickey's parents and arranged some repayment to Mr. Weinstein for the wood. There was loud, but I think perfunctory parental criticism and punishment for both kids, and we were forced to give back the birds, tear down the coop, and return the wood to Weinstein. Surprisingly, the punishment at home wasn't too bad. Rethinking it today, I think Dad and the other adults got a secret chuckle from our endeavors. And further thinking now, I wonder about the prevailing attitude of our low-income neighbors and my parents In other words, it was almost but not quite okay to steal from well-off people, insurance companies, or the government. We were two Catholic school kids, strictly trained by the nuns, but somehow, thou shalt not steal didn't seem to apply in this case. We never considered the moral factors, just the can we get away with it factors. Looking back, I know it was stealing, but it was generally winked at, and it didn't seem like theft to us at that time. What do I make of that? I'm still thinking about it. This is Rod Murphy. Thank you for viewing or listening to my YouTube and podcast episodes. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy them, please hit the subscribe button. It does not cost you anything, and it helps me to grow my audience. Again, my thanks. Note, some of my viewers and listeners have asked how they could comment on my episodes. There is a note at the top of each episode. It's called Send Us a Text. Click that, and you would be able to comment. Also, former redhead at protonmail.com is my podcast email if you would like to contact me. So it's former redhead, I used to have red hair, former redhead at proton, P-R-O-T-O-N, mail.com is my podcast email. Thank you.